1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, good children go to heaven. Hi everybody, welcome to my latest little YouTube video. Now for this video, this is my entry into Beatletown's Beatles channel contest to celebrate his first anniversary on YouTube. Now the idea of the video is you've got to show something that's personal to you. Doesn't have to be worth a lot of money. It could be how you got into the Beatles, or it could be like your grail, something you've searched and searched for years for to find, and have eventually found it. It could be a story of you meeting one of the Beatles, or it could be a ticket stub or something else. Now I thought I'll do this one because basically this is an album. It's not worth a hell of a lot of money, but it's the album that got me into becoming a Beatles fan, a record collector, and then a Beatles fanatic, and then into doing things like this YouTube videos. So a bit of background. I've always had records in my life. As far as back as I can remember, there's always been records. My mum and dad were like really big music lovers. They had the record thing that was like a great big massive piece of furniture in the front room. So Sunday was always music day. They'd be playing either Buddy Holly or Little Richard. But then they did play things like Roger Whittaker, Johnny Mathis, things like that, ABBA. So music has always been around in my life. I started to get into records when I was about 10. I think that's when I roughly got my first record player, was when I was 10 or 11. I sort of knew the Beatles, but I wasn't a big fan of theirs. I say I sort of knew the Beatles. I knew Hey Jude, and I knew Mull of Kintyre, and I knew Imagine. But I didn't actually realise that Paul McCartney was in the Beatles and John Lennon had been in the Beatles, if that makes sense. So now we skip to December, or fast forward to December 1980. Now at the time I was into punk and new wave. I was about 14 years old. Again, so I did know John Lennon sung Imagine, and Paul McCartney and Wings did Mull of Kintyre, and I knew that the Beatles did a song called Hey Jude. That was about my knowledge of the Beatles. It wasn't ignorance or anything, I just didn't really know. And I can remember getting up because I had a paper round at the time, and my dad worked shifts, and he came home one morning just as I was getting ready to go out on a paper round, and he goes, "Oh, John Lennon's been murdered." Now me being a punk rocker at the time, I thought it said John Lydon, Johnny Rotten, and I went, "Oh my God!" And it was on my mind all day. So then when later on it was on the news, it's a really, really big news story, wasn't it? I think, which of course it should have been. Then when they showed a picture of John Lennon, I'm thinking, well, that's a bloke who sung Imagine. I'm sure it is. So that's like my mum and dad goes, "Is that the bloke who sung Imagine?" And they're going, "Oh yeah, he was in the Beatles." It goes, "Well, who's the Beatles?" So my mum got one of these old Top of the Pops sort of LPs, which was like people singing other people's songs. And there was one that was like virtually all Beatles songs on it. Stuff like Hard Day's Night and Twist and Shout and things like that. Weren't very good versions, in all honesty. I think it was something you used to get from like Woolworths back in the day. I think it used to be something like £1 or something like that. So she played this record, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, that if that's how they sound when it's not them, what do they sound like? The real Beatles. And obviously on the news there was clips of John when he was with the Beatles as well as when he was solo. So that made me want to go out and buy an album. So this is my story of how I bought this album and why it's special to me. It's not worth a lot, but it's special to me. So I think the following week after John had been murdered, I went down to our local Woolies, and there was actually a couple of Beatles albums that had been reissued for Christmas of 1980. And this is the album that I got. This is the first ever Beatles album I got. The Beatles Rock and Roll Music Volume 1. And this is how I knew it. I didn't know that it had originally been a double album. So this is the first Beatles record I went out with my own money and bought. And I think it was something like £1.50 or £1.99 at the time. So I looked at the track listing and I'm thinking, I know some of them, but some of them I don't know, sort of thing. I knew rock and roll music and things like that. And I knew Matchbox because my dad used to like Cole Perkins and things like that. But the rest of it I didn't really know. So went home, put on my record player, and I'm thinking, wow, why haven't I ever heard of any of these songs? Bearing in mind, at that time, the biggest radio station in England or the UK was Radio 1. And if they ever played a Beatles record, it was either Hey Jude or Yesterday. That was the majority. It's like, you know, so they didn't really ever play a lot of other stuff unless they were doing a special programme on the Beatles, which around December 1980, every programme was something either on the Beatles or John Lennon wanted it on the radio. So, gets it home. I go through the track listing first. Side 1 is Twist and Shout. I Saw Her Standing There. You Can't Do That. I Want to Be Your Man. I Call Your Name. Boys and then Long Tall Sally. Side 2, Rock and Roll Music. Slow Down. Kansas City. Money. Bad Boy, Matchbox and Roll Over Beethoven. So it's just like really, you know, the sort of early Beatles, isn't it, on this? So I put the record on. Twist and Shout comes on. And it blew my mind away. Bear in mind, I was only 14 at the time. And I'm thinking, why the hell haven't I ever heard this record before? I mean, I might have done when I was, you know, really, really small. And I'm thinking, that's amazing. That's my exact words, that's amazing. Then I Saw Her Standing There. Again, I'm thinking, crikey, that's a masterpiece. Why haven't I ever heard? Why aren't people talking about the Beatles? Bear in mind, you've got to remember, like 1979, the Beatles bubble had burst, sort of thing, hadn't it? You know, they were like releasing compilation albums that weren't really up to the standard of Beatles albums. Then You Can't Do That. I'd never even heard of that. Again, I thought, that's a really, really good song, that is. I Want to Be Your Man. Well, when I heard that, I thought to myself, well, I'm sure my dad's got that somewhere, but I always thought that was the Rolling Stones, which it was, because the Rolling Stones had a hit with it, didn't they? I didn't know, you know, it was recorded by the Beatles and was on with the Beatles album at the time. Because I said to my dad, well, I always thought that was Rolling Stones. He goes, yeah, it is. Even he didn't know the Beatles had done a version of it. Then we get I Call Your Name, you know, another strong John Lennon song. Then Boys, and then side 1 finishes off with Long Tall Sally. Again, I sort of knew that, but I think I knew that from an old 78 my mum had of Little Richard. So I didn't actually realise the Beatles had ever done that either. So then we get on to side 2, Rock and Roll Music. I did know that, but again, I didn't realise it was the Beatles that did it, because that was originally Chuck Berry, wasn't it, I think, did that. Slow Down, Kansas City, Money, That's What I Want, Bad Boy, Matchbox, and then Roll Over Beethoven. So this little album, although, you know, it's probably one of the Beatles albums that are worth the least amount of money, to me it's priceless. And the reason it's priceless is because this album made me become a Beatles fan. And then, obviously, once I had this, I had to go out and buy Volume 2. And then I think I went out and bought, what did I buy after that? I think it was Rubber Soul, if I remember rightly. And that's how I got into the Beatles. And then obviously once I got into the Beatles, although I was a Beatles fan, then I became a Beatles fanatic. Hence, all these years later, everything on there is Beatles, everything down there is Beatles, everything down there is Beatles. Boxes and boxes of Beatles singles, posts and everything. So this is the culprit that made me become a Beatles fanatic and a Beatles fan. The week after I bought this, I did go out and buy Volume 2, which, to be honest, is even better than this. And then about a year later, I did realise that this had originally been a double album. So I got that, and then the rest basically is history. So that's my little story of why I became a Beatles fan and a Beatles fanatic, and it's all down to this album. And in all fairness, this is actually a cracking little album. And then years later, I didn't realise that in the UK, the Beatles double album didn't have the remixes by George Martin. This is actually the slightly remixed versions from George Martin that was rejected by Capitol or something at the time. So yeah, it is a lovely little album. Love it to bits. Like I say, it's not worth it. It's probably worth £10, maybe 15 at a push. They are getting slightly rare now to get in, you know, really nice condition. But this is the one that I actually bought. So, you know, I've got another copy that I've played to death, but this is the one that I bought and we used to sit and listen to with my mum and my dad and my sister and things like that back in the day, you know, ending 1980, beginning 1981. So yeah, this is what made me become a Beatles fan, a Beatles fanatic, a record collector, and then a YouTube channel. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you haven't checked out Beatley Tone's Beatles channel, please do. He's got some really good videos. He's a very knowledgeable chap. He's a nice chap. He's a bit like me. He knows his stuff, but sometimes he doesn't take himself that serious. And if you do go to his channel and you like it, please subscribe, because he's trying to get up to 1,000 members. I think he's on 955 or something at the minute. So, you know, this is another reason for doing this, to try and get him up to that magic 1,000 subscribers. So I hope you have all enjoyed this. I hope you've enjoyed it as well, Beatley Tone. I think this is what the sort of thing you wanted, someone just to say something personal, and you know, while they're into the Beatles and things. So I hope it's okay. So like I say, this is my entry into Beatley Tone's Beatles channel contest to celebrate his upcoming 1st anniversary on YouTube. So go and check his album, go and check his channel out. You won't be disappointed. So thank you to everybody for watching this video. You know, and if you like this video, obviously if you're not subscribed, please subscribe as well, because I'm trying to get my figures up as well. So until the next time, it's Beatle Dave saying ta-da, and you know, look after yourselves, and I hope you've enjoyed this video.